Chapter 18 of Shrimadbhaagavatha on the banks of sacred Ganga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Trained as he was in the path of Dharma, and being a worthy descendant of the righteous-minded Pandavas, the king was not unhappy at the turn of events. He lost interest in the things of the world and welcomed death, which was to him a fitting punishment for his unpardonable behavior towards Shamika. King Parikshit crowned his son Janamejaya as king, and abandoning his princely garments, he made a journey to the banks of the river Ganga. There he spread holy kusha grass on the ground and sat down on it. He had decided on Prayopavesha, fasting unto death with a mind filled with thoughts of the Lord. He began the preparation for the end, which to him seemed a new kind of adventure. Many great rishis came to his side when he was sitting on the banks of Ganga. Atri, Vasishta, Chayavana, Sharadvan, Brigu, Angirasa, Parashara, Vishwamitra, the son of Gadi, Parashurama, the son of Jamadagni, Vyasa accompanied by Narada. Looking on this galaxy of great men, Parikshit was thrilled beyond words. He received them with great excitement and joy, and he spoke to them humbly after honoring them. He said, "Without a doubt, mine is great good fortune. What good actions have I performed in my previous birth, that you should all have days deemed to visit me altogether? Now that you have come, please bless me, who has decided on Prayopavesha. The Brahmin boy who has cursed me has, in reality, been my benefactor, since he has made me reach out for the next world in the presence of great men like you. I have renounced the world and I am ready to meet death, which is imminent. I have but one request. Please let my ears drink in the praises of the Lord during the 7 days which must pass before I reach him." The rishis said, "Descendant as you are of the Pandavas, princes who renounced the world when Krishna died, it is not surprising that you should follow in their footsteps. This, your decision, is laudable." The king said, "I have but one question to ask of you. What is a course of action to be adopted by a man who is on the point of death, so that he can be assured of becoming sinless?" The rishis pondered on the question. Some spoke of yaga, others of yoga. Some thought that tapas was the best course to adopt, while others said dhana, giving away all that one possessed. No one could say anything definite. All the paths seemed plausible, but the king was fighting against time, and what could be done in 7 days was indeed a poser. 7 days was so short. As for dana, the king had already given away everything he had. Tapas was out of question since there was no time. Yaga also had to be abandoned for the same reason as also yoga. While they were talking this among themselves, there came to them Shuka, the young son of Vyasa. Glowing like a heap of gold, he appeared before them, clothed in his own glory. This was indeed a great event. The rishis stood up as one man and honored Shuka. Parikshit fell at his feet and with tears in his eyes said, "I am fortunate, very fortunate. The Lord who protected me when I was in my mother's womb is still thinking of my good. Or else, how could it happen that the great Shuka Brahma should graze the spot where a sinful man like me stands? When great souls like you visit our sinful abodes, you sanctify them so much that even we become as pure and good as sadhus worthy of worship. It is said that a house gets purified even by the thought of men like you. What then about a spot visited by you? You have come to me. Your blessed feet have trod the same ground where a sinful Kshatriya like me stands. You have grazed the seat I have offered you by sitting on it. Great indeed is my good fortune, who has the great Shukab Brahma by his side when I am so near my death. I will dare to ask you to advise me as to the right path to be pursued by a man whose death is very near. Please tell me, my lord, what I should do now to reach the feet of Narayana. Shukra blessed him. He was seated, and after him all the many rishis. Shukra said, I have come to you for the sole purpose of telling you about the glory of Narayana, which is the only recital worth hearing. My revered father has composed the Bhagavata Purana, and I learnt it from him. I will tell you the story of the Lord and make these 7 days the most glorious days of your life. This story will help you, and not only you, but all men who will be born hereafter. Consider the life of ordinary men on earth. They are caught in the web of bondage, attachment to their homes, their children, their belongings. They are ignorant of the signs of self-realization. There are so many things to be learnt by man during his short stay in this world. Yet, what does he do? Half his life is lost in sleep. As for the other half, childhood and youth steal away most of it. Man becomes involved in worldly pleasures and the pain resulting from it, from attachment. Man never pauses to think of the truth that death is awaiting him. Every day he sees death around him, and yet he will never consider himself to be a mortal. He will never reckon the quick passage of time which carries him nearer and nearer death every moment. And so, for one who desires mukti from the world of bondage, there is one easy path available, and that is thinking of the Lord at the end of one's life. Even rishis who have realized the Brahman delight in singing the praises of the Lord. There is no need to regret the number of years wasted in thinking of things other than Him. Even a muhurta is enough to tide you over if you are sincere enough. There was a king, Khatwanga by name. He came to know that he had just one muhurta more to live. This was when he was in the heavens with the Devas. Khatwanga at once renounced the heavens and rushed to the earth. He sat in meditation for that one muhurta and reached the feet of the Lord. You, my dear Parikshit, have 7 whole days to spend in this very pleasant task, thinking of the Lord. I will help you to concentrate on Him. Shrimad Shri Krishnarpanamastu. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Chapter 19 of Shrimadbhaagavatam, Dharana. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. When death draws near man, man should cast off his fear of death. When death draws near, man should cast off his fear of death. With the sword of renunciation, he should sever all ties which bind him to his wife, children, and other worldly objects. He should leave his house, and having bathed in the holy waters, he should sit down for meditation. I will describe the technique for meditation. Steady the mind with the help of pranayama. Repeat the mystic word Om. When the mind is controlled by you, it should then be made steadfast. The intellect should be the charioteer which should hold the reins and steer the mind towards contemplation on the Lord. The mind should not be allowed to stray towards the objects of the senses. The Ashtanga Yoga is the preliminary yoga for concentrating on the form of the Lord. This yoga is made up of 8 qualities which should be part of you. Ahimsa, not hurting anyone or anything. Satyam, truthfulness. Asateyam, not stealing what belongs to another. Brahmacharya, withdrawal of the senses. Aparigraham, not receiving gifts from anyone. Saucham, inner and outer cleanliness. Tapas, penance. And Swadhyaya, study of the scriptures, understanding all that you have learned. These 8 are the requisites for the next step. This is called dharana, which leads to dhyana. With a steady mind, you should visualize the form of the Lord. The mind should be pervaded by His form and by nothing else. Once this is achieved, tamasic nature will no longer delude man, nor will rajasic nature try to ensnare him in worldly things. Once you have mastered the correct posture and correct breathing according to the rules of pranayama, once you have broken away from the bondage and the snare of the senses, then you will be in a position to do dharana. Holding the form of the Lord firmly in the mind, think on the Virata Purusha. This form comprises the past, the present and the future. All the actions which have taken place, which are happening and which are to happen hereafter are all comprised by the Virata Purusha. This Virata Purusha is enveloped by the 7 avaranas. Prithvi, the earth; Apu, water; Tejas, fire; Vayu, air; Akasha, ether; Ahamatva and Mahattattva. This Virata Purusha has the Patala as the soles of his feet, Rasatala as his feet, Mahatala as his heels, Suthala as his knees, Vithala and Sthala as his thighs, Bhutala as his waist. The sky is his stomach, Suvarloka, which is all light, is his chest, Maharloka is his neck, and Jana his face. Tapoloka is his forehead, and Satyaloka comprises his many hands. The Devas, led by Indra, form his hands. The 4 quarters are his ears. The Ashwins are his nostrils. Fire is his mouth, and the sun his eyes. Day and night are the eyelashes of the Virata Purusha. Water forms his palate, and the sense of taste forms his tongue. The Vedas are his head, and Yama his teeth. Maya is his smile. Creation the glance from his eyes. The sea forms his stomach, and the mountains are his bones. The rivers are the veins in his body, and the trees the hair covering him. Time is his stride. Air his breath, and the world with its myriad qualities his sport. The clouds are his looks, and the evening his clothing. The Avyakta, the unmanifested, is his heart, and the moon is his mind, while Rudra is his ego. Swayambhu Manu is his intellect. The Gandharvas, Charanas and the Apsaras are the musical notes and the Smritis. These are the words from the Vedas which describe the Virata Purusha. Concentrate on this form of the Lord. Those who have mastered this should then invoke the form of the Lord and see it in their hearts. They see the form of Narayana lying on the immense snake called Ananta. When the mind is stilled and hushed by concentration, man can see this form in his mind. After this is achieved, life leaves the body easily and reaches the Lord. Before this last stage, dharana, man should spend all his time in listening the stories of the Lord. Man's ears will be just holes in his head if he does not use them to drink in the praises of Narayana. As for his tongue, if it does not sing the glories of Narayana, it is no different from the tongue of a frog which croaks during the rainy season. The head is but a burden if it does not bend at the feet of Narayana. The hands, beautiful with many jeweled bracelets and perfumed with sandal paste, will still be just the arms of a corpse if they do not worship Narayana with flowers. The eyes which do not drink in the beauty of his images are like the eyes on the plumage of a peacock. The feet which do not travel to holy spots are like the roots of a tree. When he does not take the dust of the feet of holy men and wear it on his head, man is no way better than a corpse. If his body does not thrill when he hears the stories of the Lord, if his eyes do not grow dim with the tears, then his heart is indeed made of stone. Unfortunate is the man who is made that way. Even such a man finds salvation if at the end of his life he thinks of Narayana and his stories. And so, Parikshit, I will relate to you the entire Bhagavata Purana during these 7 days, and you can rest assured that because of you, mankind will benefit in the days to come. Shuka invoked the Lord Narayana in his mind. He then saluted Vyasa, his father, who was the author of the poem. He then began to recite the great Purana. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Chapter 20 of Shrimadbhaagavatha, the tragedy at Prabhasa. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. When Vidura left Hastina on the fateful day, he made up his mind to visit all the holy rivers of Bharatavarsha. He wanted to bathe in the tirthas which had been sanctified by the feet of Narayana. He went to Vrindavana and rested his weary soul in the shelter of Govardhana, the hill which was dear to Krishna. Vidura found a semblance of peace in his troubled mind when he thought of Krishna and the childhood of Krishna which had been spent here. Bhishma had told him that Krishna was Narayana himself, and tears flowed from the eyes of Vidura when he thought of the good fortune of the Govardhana hill and its slopes where Krishna wandered at will during those days when he had not yet been saddled with the responsibilities which burdened him now. Even though he was the Lord incarnate, Krishna had to be like one of the many whom he had come to protect, and a smile of joy lit the face of Vidura at the thought of Krishna. After a few days at Vrindavana, Vidura proceeded northwards. He visited many tirthas and several kshetras. At the end of his long travel, he reached Prabhasa Tirtha, the favorite spot of Krishna. There, he heard about the annihilation of the family of Dhritarashtra and about Yudhishthira being Lord of the world. Protected as he was by the armor of detachment, still Vidura's heart was touched with sorrow, and quietly he walked towards the banks of the river Saraswati. From there, he visited several other tirthas again and came to the banks of the river Yamuna. There, he met Uddhava, the playmate of Krishna. Such a long time had passed since they had met. They were locked in a close embrace and tears were flowing from their eyes. Vidura composed himself and said, "What a great moment for me. I have met you after so many years. Tell me, how is Krishna and how is the valiant Balarama? How is everyone at Dwaraka? Is Satyaki still as fierce as he used to be? How is Pradyumna? Tell me about them. It is ages since I heard of them and their welfare. I have been away visiting the tirthas. I am eager to know all about everything. I heard that Yudhishthira is now Lord of the world. I left Hastina long ago, driven away from there by the son of my brother, as you must have heard. I have been wandering all over the place and I have been far away from the cities. I know that Narayana came into the world of men in the guise of a human being to establish dharma and to destroy the kings whose arrogance was unbearable. These kings were afflicted with three kinds of madas: Vidyamada, Dhanamada, and Kulamada. One of them is enough to turn the head of anyone, and when all the three are found in one man, is there any doubt as to the high degree of pride and sinfulness in him? The world was full of such kings, and the Lord destroyed every one of them. Now he must be resting after performing the immense task he had undertaken to perform. Tell me how he is enjoying his leisure. How is Krishna and how are the other Yadavas? Uddhava was silent for a moment. His mind went back to the days he had spent with Krishna ever since he was a boy. Uddhava was lost to the world of men for that one moment. His eyes were wet with joy at the thought of the remembered things of the long ago. With a start, he came back to the world. Wiping his eyes, he said, "My friend, your questions made me sad. How can I answer them? Krishna is dead." Vidura stood stunned. He could not comprehend the words of Uddhava. Looking at him, Uddhava smiled sadly and said, "It is true, Krishna is dead. The glory of the earth vanished when Krishna died. And it grieves me to think of the ignorance of the Yadu house, which could not see Krishna as the avatara of Narayana. You know, Vidura, when the moon is reflected in the sea, the fish living in the water do not realize that it is the moon. They think it is just another fish which has come to stay with them. Even so, the Yadavas thought that Krishna was one of them. They knew that he was greater than them, wiser than they were, and so they called him the best among the Yadavas. That is all. And they are all dead, every one of them. Not one lives except me." "But how?" exclaimed Vidura. "How come they are all dead? Please tell me everything. I can bear it." "Once," began Uddhava, "once the youngsters of the Yadava house had offered some of the rishis who had come to Dwaraka. They dressed up Samba, Jambavati's son, as a woman and asked the rishis if she would bear a son or a daughter. The angry rishis said, 'She will bear an iron pestle, which will be the destruction of your entire clan.' Samba did give birth to an iron pestle, or rather, when they removed the disguise from him, they found an iron pestle. The children were horrified and they went to Balarama and Krishna with the entire story. Balarama was very angry. He made them grind the pestle into powder and throw it into the sea. He forgot all about it, but not Krishna. At the end of the war at Kurukshetra, Duryodhana's mother, the saintly Gandhari, was very angry with Krishna because she felt that he was solely responsible for the war. Like a bamboo forest is destroyed by the fire caused by itself, the Kuru family was destroyed, the fire being jealousy, said Krishna. But the royal mother would not be convinced. She told Krishna, "Your family will also be destroyed by itself." Krishna bent his head and with folded palms he received the curse. With a smile he said, "Mother, it is a blessing and not a curse." Years passed. Krishna knew the moment had come. He suggested that the entire family should go to Prabhasa and spend some time there. So they went, a happy crowd. One day, they were all drunk and overcome with intoxication. They did not know what they were saying or what they were doing. They began to quarrel with each other. Insults were hurled at each other, and in a matter of moments, the quarrel became violent. They were killing each other, and when they found that they did not have many weapons, the fighters plucked handfuls of the reeds growing along the shore of the sea and hit each other with them. The reeds had all sprung up from the powdered pestle of the long ago. Each reed became as powerful as an astra, and the entire family of the Yadava, Bhoja, Andhaka clans was gone, annihilated in a matter of moments. Krishna walked away from them, and I found him seated at the foot of an Ashwatha tree. I told him that I would also go with him, but he asked me to go to Badarikashrama. I refused and said, "Krishna, I will not live in this world without you. You have always been by my side. Please take me with you." Sage Maitreya came there too. Krishna looked at me and said, "You must listen to me, Uddhava. You cannot come with me. You have a mission to perform. I will teach you the truth. I will teach you the Brahma Vidya. You must travel all over the world and teach it to those who do not know how to reach me." He taught the great lessons to me and asked me to leave him. After I left, Krishna was seated in a yogic trance. He had assumed the Padmasana and his left foot was placed on his thigh. A hunter at a distance saw his left foot resting on the thigh. The pink foot and the yellow silk created the illusion that it was a deer. The hunter took aim and sent an arrow. The arrow entered the foot of Krishna and he died not long after. I am on my way to Badari. Vidura was listening with tears flowing unheedingly from his eyes. He looked at Uddhava piteously and said, "Please teach me the lesson which was taught to you by Krishna. You know how sorely I need it." Uddhava said, "I am not the person to teach you, my friend. It is Maitreya. Krishna asked me to tell you that you should go to the ashrama of Maitreya and learn the Brahma Vidya from him. Please seek him out and learn from him." After a tender leave-taking, Uddhava went in the direction of Badarikashrama in the north. Badarikashrama where Nara and Narayana had performed tapas long ago. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Chapter 21 of Shrimadbhaagavatha. In the beginning. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Vidura travelled towards the banks of the Ganga, where sage Maitreya had his ashrama. He went there. After saluting the rishi, Vidura told him about the meeting he had with Uddhava and said, "I have come to you to learn the lesson which the Lord taught to Uddhava. I was told that you will be good enough to tell me. It is the wish of Krishna that I should learn it from you." Maitreya said, "I am happy you have come to me. Tell me what is troubling you and I will try to clear your doubts." Vidura said, "Wise one, I have lived in this world all these years and I have lived in the midst of different people. I have known good men and I have lived with bad men too. But different as they are in every characteristic, they are all alike in one thing. People, I have noticed, perform actions with but one desire, happiness. Strangely enough, their sorrow, pain and not pleasure is the fruit they reap out of their actions. I asked myself, is there then no way of avoiding this? What light can be thrown on this problem which has been teasing me since so many years? What should man do in order to avoid pain? The pain which results from his actions. I thought that I had finally found the answer to my question. Listening to the stories of the Lord and thinking only of Him helps man to solve this problem. People like you, my Lord, who have been devotees of Narayana are in this world with only one purpose, to lead erring humanity towards God, to tell them the story of the Lord, of His glory and lead them in the path of devotion. Please teach me and through me teach the world in general the path to God. We have great pleasure in listening to the story. The great Vyasa taught us the Mahabharata. In relating the story to us, he taught man about the rules of conduct. Vyasa had taught us that attachment to things of the world leads but to pain, and he has taught us the many nuances of dharma. But we want more. We want to drink in the praises of Narayana. Please relate to me the story of the many avatars of Narayana. Tell me about the many acts which he has performed, as a result of which the world has been purified again and again." Maitreya smiled his appreciation and said, "It is but meet that you should ask these questions of me, since you are the incarnation of Dharma. I am very pleased with you. I will be only too happy to relate to you the entire story of the Lord. I will begin from where it all began. It was after the great deluge. The entire earth was submerged under the waters. Narayana was absorbed in the Yoga Nidra after the Mahapralaya. He was reclining on the great serpent Adisesha, and the entire universe had been withdrawn into him, and it lay dormant in him like fire in a piece of wood. The three gunas were in equilibrium, and therefore there was no action. And so it was for a long while. Then time caused a disturbance in the three gunas, and when the balance was upset, out of the navel of Narayana emerged a thin stalk, which was the manifestation of Rajoguna. This grew into an immense lotus and it illuminated everything around it. Into the lotus entered Narayana in another form, which was Brahma. Considering himself to have been born on his own, Brahma found himself to be well versed in the Vedas, and he found that he was alone. He looked around him in all the four directions with eyes wide open, and he found that he had four heads pointing in the four directions. He saw nothing but a large expanse of water all around him, and noise he heard was made by the immense waves of the sea. He looked down and found that he was seated on a lotus, and he could not discern the beginnings of the lotus stalk. He entered the stalk and travelled downwards, but found nothing at the end of it. He came back to his original place, and around him the waters made noise, and it seemed to him as though they said, Tapaha, Tapaha, perform tapas, and you will find what you seek. Brahma performed tapas seated in the lotus for 100 years. For 100 years, he was absorbed in meditation. All on a sudden, he saw the form of Narayana in his mind. The Lord was reclining on Adishesha, who was white like the stalk of a lotus. Brahma realized that he was the Purusha. The moment he saw the Lord, Brahma obtained wisdom. He knew what he had to do. He was made to come out of the lotus to create a new world. He worshipped Narayana with the words which came to him without his being taught them. Narayana said, I have set you the task of creating the world and the beings on it. Brahma said, so be it. Out of the mind of Brahma were born the four rishis, Sanaka, Sanandha, Sanatana, and Sanat Kumara. Out of the mind of Brahma were born the four rishis, Sanaka, Sanandha, Sanatana, Santana, and Sanat Kumara. When they were born, Brahma said, take up the work of creation and multiply. The four rishis were bent on attaining salvation at the feet of the Lord, and so they refused to take up the work of creation. Brahma was very angry with them, but he controlled his anger. Though his reason held it in check, his anger took up a form and emerged out of his forehead. It was a child reddish blue in hue, and he began to cry as soon as he was born. Please give me a name and a place where I can stay, cried the newborn. And Brahma said, do not cry. Since you cried the moment you were born, I will call you Rudra. The heart, the senses, life and sky, air, fire, water, the earth, the sun, the moon and tapas. These are the places assigned to you. You can go now and produce many in your image. Brahma then created 10 sons out of his body. They were Atri, Angirasa, Pulastya, Pulaha, Kratu, Brigu, Daksha, Marichi, Vashishta and Narada. Dharma and Adharma were also born of Brahma. Out of his heart was born desire, and out of his brows was born anger. His shadow took a form, and this son was named Kardama. From his mind and body was created this entire world. Out of his four faces were born the four Vedas. Brahma then divided his body into two. One was male and the other female. They were called Swayambhu Manu and Shatarupa. These two produced 5 children. 3 were daughters, Akuti, Prasuti and Devahuti. The sons were Priyavrata and Uttanapada. Akruti was married to a rishi by name Ruchi, Devahuti to Kardama, and Prasuti to Daksha. And the children of these with their descendants have populated the world. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Krishna Pranamastu.